The California Gold Rush is one of the most well-known occurrences of mass hysteria in history. Between 1848 and 1855, news of gold found in California brought over 300,000 people to the region, drastically changing the demographics of the entire United States. But what if there was another gold rush that dwarfed even this one? What if a discovery of such unbelievable scale caused an entire era to be completely forgotten about? Well, today we're gonna find out as we explore the gold rush that time forgot, hidden ores of the Mesozoic. But first, I'd like to give a shout out to our community. Without further ado, let's begin. Imagine for a moment that it's 1929 and you've just heard the most shocking news of your life. The British have discovered an ore so large and so dense that it has been dubbed the eighth wonder of the world. This enormous vein of gold stretches all the way across northern Canada and into Alaska. It is so thick that some parts of it are almost entirely composed of pure gold. And after seeing this unimaginable wealth, the British immediately set up operations to mine it and quickly ship it back home. This must be the biggest event in human history, right? Well, yes, it is. But it's also not real. Despite this incredible story being recounted by multiple historical figures as well as appearing in publications all over the world, this Canadian Klondike gold rush never happened because it took place roughly 65 million years ago. You see, long before humans ever set foot in North America, the continent was already rich with precious metals. In fact, at this time, the entire world was experiencing something known as the Great Oxidation Event. This period of Earth's history saw the rapid increase of oxygen in the atmosphere, which eventually led to the evolution of modern Earth and the formation of the ozone layer. But while this event undoubtedly helped set the stage for complex life to flourish, it also had some pretty devastating consequences. You see, one of the many effects of increasing oxygen levels was the widespread oxidation of metal sulfide minerals, which led to giant piles of metals being deposited across the planet. Most of these piles were of iron, but they also included a significant amount of gold and other precious metals. These mineral deposits would eventually become known as the Witwatersrand supergroup, and they can be found all over the world. But nowhere is this phenomenon more prevalent than in South Africa, where one single deposit contains half of all the gold ever mined by humanity. However, the largest of these ancient gold rushes wasn't in South Africa or North America, but in what is today the Yucatan Peninsula. Roughly 70 million years ago, this region was a tropical swamp full of life. And when the Great Oxidation Event occurred, it caused massive amounts of minerals to precipitate out of the water and settle at the bottom, forming the modern-day Ghan batholith. This area is now one of the most important mineral deposits on Earth, containing more gold and silver than anywhere else in the world. But unfortunately for the ancient creatures that lived here, the process of gold formation is actually quite violent. You see, gold is created when sulfur is stripped away from other minerals, leaving behind pure gold. And this process usually occurs through intense volcanic activity, earthquakes, and even meteorite impacts. And so when the Great Oxidation Event caused all of the oxygen in the atmosphere to become locked up in minerals, the Earth experienced a sort of volcanic winter. For hundreds of millions of years, volcanoes simply couldn't erupt because the gases needed to power them were all locked away. And so in the Yucatan, the oxygen in the swamp water began to react with the rocks, breaking them down and releasing metals such as gold, silver, and lead. This process would have released toxic chemicals into the air and water, killing off much of the native wildlife and turning the entire region into a giant natural reactor. But even after the dust settled, the Yucatan never recovered. With its nutrient-rich waters gone, the entire area became a barren wasteland until volcanic activity finally kicked back up again. But while the Yucatan was suffering and new life was emerging in the ocean, around this time the first whales began to appear. And as these mammals slowly took over the seas, they brought with them a host of other new creatures. But sadly, their emergence also coincided with yet another mass extinction. You see, 66 million years ago, the asteroid that killed off the dinosaurs also caused a significant amount of global warming. This lasted for several million years as the Earth's climate gradually returned to normal. But during this time, sea levels rose dramatically, wiping out countless species and fundamentally changing the course of history. And once again, the Yucatan was at the center of this dramatic change. As the climate warmed, glaciers melted and sea levels rose around the globe. But the Yucatan, with its low elevation, flooded first. And as new shallow seas spread across the peninsula, they carried with them even more toxic chemicals that devastated local life. Even though it only lasted for a few thousand years, this period of rising seas is thought to have been responsible for wiping out 30% of marine life and 75% of terrestrial life. And once again, the Earth took millions of years to recover. But while the Yucatan was struggling to repopulate, a new mining rush was beginning in Antarctica. You see, 56 million years ago, Antarctica was a very different place. Instead of being covered in ice, the continent was actually a lush rainforest full of bizarre creatures. The giant mosses and ferns that covered the land absorbed carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and caused temperatures to plummet. This led to the Antarctic melting and rising sea levels around the globe, which in turn triggered the formation of the circumantarctic current. This frigid current then caused even more melting, which caused even more carbon dioxide to be absorbed, leading to an almost endless cycle of cooling. Eventually, the entire continent became covered in ice and Antarctica became the barren wasteland we know today. However, because Antarctica was once a tropical rainforest, it was also rich with mineral deposits. And as the continent began to cool, these minerals started to crystallize, creating some of the largest mines on Earth. But even though these minerals contained huge amounts of precious metals, they were mostly composed of iron. And because iron is so reactive, it quickly rusted, locking away any gold and forcing miners to abandon their claims. Yet, in spite of this seemingly unending supply of minerals, the Antarctic gold rush didn't last long, because once again, another mass extinction swept across the planet. You see, 55 million years ago, a supervolcano erupted in what is today Western India. The massive blast blasted an incredible 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash into the air, blocking out the sun and causing temperatures to plummet. Not only did this kill off much of the local wildlife, but the dust eventually made its way around the globe, causing acid rain and decimating plant life everywhere. Once again, the Earth took millions of years to recover, but this time it would never be the same. The asteroids, volcanic winters, and sudden ice ages that had been plaguing the planet for millions of years finally came to a halt, allowing life to flourish like never before. And as animals diversified, humans finally emerged in Africa. But despite us becoming the dominant species on the planet, we still haven't managed to discover any of these ancient mines. They remained hidden from the world until just a few decades ago when modern mining operations accidentally uncovered them. But even though these mines contain unimaginable wealth, they'll never be used. You see, the problem with mining for gold in places like Antarctica or the Yucatan is that it causes immense environmental damage. Not only does it pollute the soil and water, but it also releases methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that accelerates climate change. So while the idea of mining these ancient ores is incredibly tempting, it would be catastrophic for the environment and could potentially destroy the planet. So instead, we'll just have to marvel at how lucky we are to be alive during such a unique period of Earth's history. Just imagine how crazy it would be if any of these events had happened even a few million years earlier or later. If the Great Oxidation event had occurred 10 million years earlier, for example, gold mining might have played a major role in the rise of ancient civilizations. Or if the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs had struck 10 million years later, the entire landscape of Earth's history would have been completely changed. But thankfully, we exist in the one tiny window of opportunity that allowed humans to evolve and eventually take over the planet. And as we look back on the past, we can only marvel at how lucky we are to be alive during such a unique period of Earth's history. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.